Grab your pre-workout and turn up that volume. It is time for a new episode of the Powerlifter's Den with your host, Cam Smith. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Powerlifter's Den. I'm your host, Cam Smith, and today I want to bring on someone I met a couple months ago. Connor, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Connor Boyle. Live in Ware, New Hampshire, train out of Concord, New Hampshire. And I'm a multiply guy. So thanks for having me on.
No problem. So I guess to start off, let's talk about maybe where you train at and where you kind of grew up training.
Sure. So right now I train at Anchor Athletics and Strength in Concord, New Hampshire. And it's an awesome powerlifting gym. Everything you need. And prior to that, I was training at a place called Brian's One-to-One Fitness. I've been to commercial gyms, Planet Fitness, the whole thing. I really got into powerlifting fairly recently, probably 3 or 4 years ago. But I've been in the gym since I was 18, and I'll be 40 in 3 weeks. So going on 22 years of in the gym. Not doing everything right, certainly, but I managed to not get too hurt doing things the wrong way, which I think has helped me in building up strength in odd ways, helped me in powerlifting. Grew up in Littleton, New Hampshire, which is closer to Montreal than it is to Boston, so I was up there. Played every sport that we all did, baseball, soccer, basketball, played rugby in college, but really got into the gym after graduating high school, and I've stuck with it through different phases of my life. So, but yeah, powerlifting's where it's at right now for me, and Anchor is where I'm training right now.
Awesome. So when was your first competition, and did you go straight into gear or?
First comp was February 2021, and it was raw meat. It didn't go great. I think 5 for 9. I didn't PR anything, but it was a well-run meet. Jamie Mata ran it out of his gym in Fairhaven, Vermont. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was doing the 3 main lifts anyway. And got connected with a group of guys at a commercial gym I was going to who were really into it. They've never been to West Side. I don't know if they've ever been to Ohio, but they had their West Side hoodies on, and they had these bands and all this shit. And, one of them's like getting into briefs that I'm not sure would fit a Cabbage Patch doll. And there's this 280-pound guy squeezing into it. I'm like, this is wild. And then the weights that were flying around were pretty cool. Nothing, honestly, not tremendously impressive stuff compared to, what we see in major powerlifting gyms. But for a commercial gym, someone squatting 600-700 pounds, it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So I was bit by it then. But yeah, first meet was raw and went not that great. It was fine though. And then did a deadlift. Then I did a push pull in multiply. Then I did deadlift only in multiply, and then everything else has been full power. Maybe a push pull stuck in there at one point, but yeah. So 1 raw and then right into gear.
That's funny. So February of 2021 was actually when I did my first full power meet too. So.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So I'm kind of obviously still sticking with the raw, but one of my friends just gave me a bench shirt. I think it's a Titan Fury. So I'm gonna be fucking around with that a little bit.
I got more briefs than insert. Like I got something that'll fit you.
All right. Well,
I know. Yeah.
I know. I like I said, I want to get experimenting in. I also want to be able to use it as like a tool to overload. I think can be an
It's not a
important
bad idea. Right now I'm in a double ply to overload a little bit, and a double ply dark side slingshot. It's basically a slingshot, but it's pretty powerful. And getting my bench, because my bench has been a problem for close to not a year, but 8 or 9 months anyway. So that's giving my top end, it's just my wrists and forearms getting used to getting back into the 5s. You were at the meet at Hellbent. I topped out at 385 in a shirt. I was benching more than that raw. before my shoulder got screwed up. So getting back into holding fives in my wrists and my hands is feeling pretty good. So it's a good, I think that's a valuable tool to overload stuff.
Yeah, and something, a huge weak point of mine is also my bench. So I think being able to hold that extra weight in your hands, like, I mean, a lot of the AR I've been using, like from bands and chains, and just like a lot of the board work, I'm getting really comfortable with holding over 400. So I'm hoping like that'll be my next bench in the meet.
It translates. I don't know how some people say that AR and stuff like that doesn't work for raw guys, but our central nervous system, our wrists and forearms, and they don't know if you have a shirt on, but like your bones, your central nervous system has to get used to carrying that weight.
Yeah,
I'm a big believer in that, and that's a good way to do it.
yeah. So I know you're kind of coming up on the meet in May. You want to tell us a little bit about your plans for that? Maybe some goals you have set.
Yeah, showdown at the Storm down in Florida. Really, really stacked lineup. I mean, I definitely have the smallest total of the men. I'm a lightweight. I mean, 220, 198. So it was probably gonna be the lowest anyway. But just being there, like, lifted on the same platform as a lot of those guys is gonna be awesome. Training's going well. Mike Skiba's coaching me and programming for me, and it's going really well. Really, really digging that. And as far as goals go, I mean, the cliche thing is 1 pound PR, right? And that's sort of true. But that's not really my goal. If I walk out, on the one hand, if I don't bomb out, I'll be pumped. That's kind of how it goes, right? It's like I'll go through like, there's no way I'm not going to total 2,500, and then 2 hours later, it's like, man, I don't think I'm going to get a squat.
Yeah,
I better open 5. You know what I mean? But realistically, I think I can have a pretty good day squatting. I think I can have, for me, get back to a real bench. And my pull's always been my best lift. It's been feeling really good. But I think, if I can squat, low mid 9s, I mean, that's a huge PR for me, but I know I have it in me. And I was handling 5s on the bench before my shoulder kind of set me back, but we sorted that out. So if I can go low mid 9s, low 5s, and then high 7s, low 8, then I'll be happy. That's a 9%, and who knows? Skeep has done is, he has a lot of ideas for fixing my bench that I think will work. So maybe I'll throw up 600, but realistically, hopefully somewhere in the 5s. He's tweaked my squat, and that's translating really well. And the pull, I feel good about that. It's just a matter of just staying at it.
yeah. So I know for the meet in December, you made the cut to 198. Is that something you plan on doing again, or are you gonna officially go to 220?
No, I'll cut to 198. That's the plan. I felt really good there. I felt really strong. And it didn't, leverage. If you gain weight, your squat will go up. If you gain weight, your bench will go up. If you gain weight, your deadlift might not go up.
Yep.
It might go backwards.
Yep.
But also, if you lose weight, your deadlift could go backwards. So for me, I was unintentionally losing a little bit of weight, and I think it was because of my shoulder. I couldn't get in all the upper work that I usually could. So I lost a little bit, not a lot, but I lost like 3 or 4 pounds. And then, excuse me. Then I went down to Evolve to squat with Rupo, and I woke up at 214. And I was like, damn, my briefs were really loose. And I squatted in the, like mid high 8s. I'm like, all right, well, if I can do this after driving, 2 hours, I spotted and loaded a meet the day before. So I was like, I was pretty banged up, pretty light, and I squatted pretty well. So I'm like, all right. So between that and my shoulder, basically completely compromising my bench, I'm like, well, how about, I was thrilled to get the invite and I was pumped to do it. But I knew my shoulder wasn't going to cooperate to get me a 500-pound bench. So I'm like, well, if there's ever a time to try the cut, I'm not breaking any records with my shoulder the way it is. So let's do it. Let's see what happens. And I hired Derek Wilcox, who, I mean, this is what he does. He's a dietitian, diet coach, cut coach. He's the lightest guy ever squat 1,000. He coached me through it, and I cut down from about 220 to 198, and it was an experience. And I had no expectations really for how I would perform with that big of a cut. Having never done a cut, other than like skipping breakfast, I've never even tried to. I weighed in at WPO semifinals at 222. And one of the people there with me, she's like, "Do you just want to like, I don't know, like take a shit and like weigh in at 220?" I'm like, "Nah, I don't really care. 220, that's fine. 240,
Yeah.
So this was the first time I really tried anything like that, and it worked well. I didn't feel weak.
Yeah.
My deadlift actually felt great. I felt really mobile, and squat felt good. I did miss my second squat on depth, but it wasn't a power thing. I just, I jumped a call and went up. I shouldn't have, but it's not like I got crushed. And I came back and got it easy, and
Yep.
so I'll make the cut again, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember seeing the photo of the death face you had when you were cutting. But I guess more into the actual like water cut itself. Kind of when is like the like what's the period of time that you actually start dropping the weight?
So I started. Let's see. So weigh-ins were on a Friday. So I started water loading on the Sunday leading up to it with 3 gallons of water a day, salted water. I salt my water anyway, but not as heavily as I was doing salting sea salt. It's literally just pouring sea salt into a gallon. I mean, it's kind of gross, but I don't mind it that much. So 3 gallons of that a day for, I believe, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, Wednesday was just 1 gallon of distilled water, and then Thursday, because I was still a little heavy, was just a complete dry fast. So I finished the gallon of distilled water Wednesday around 11 a.m. and there was no more liquid until after weigh-ins Friday.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I haven't, and I'm doing everything else. Like I haven't like packed a lip in like 10 years, but I went to the gas station, got like 3 tins of Skull and just spitting on the way down, trying to lose that extra little bit. And then, I was still a little heavy, like a 2 or 3 pounds heavy Friday morning. So spent 80 minutes total in a sauna, 30 minutes the first round, and then 10 or 15 minutes after that to sweat the rest out. And then I got out the last time, and I took my Skeletor picture, and I texted after weigh-ins and after I got an IV, like they did my blood pressure, and I was great. I was feeling good. So I texted my wife. I'm like, so I'm healthy. I'm fine. Blood pressure's good. I made weight. Do you want to see the picture right before weigh-in?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah. She's like, Jesus, dude. Like, man.
Yeah.
That didn't. Yeah. So it was an experience, but I'll do it again. I'm gonna try to diet down a little bit more, so I don't have to cut 22 pounds. So I'll probably keep it closer to 15.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I did wrestling in college and in high school, so kind of doing that weight cut. I mean, I've seen people cutting these crazy amounts of weights to make weight, but for me, I did one serious cut and it was 20 pounds in 2 days, and I looked absolutely sickly, and it was just a lot of sweating. I didn't know about water loading, and I feel like a lot of wrestlers actually don't know about water loading, but it is crazy just to see
so
how.
you sweat out 20 pounds in 2 days.
Yeah, I remember it was Friday at noon. We did like a little practice in between classes, and I was 220 on the dot, and I had to make 197. So I think by like 6 p.m. that night, I was down to like 204, and then I slept the rest off.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. That sounds worse than what I did. That sounds worse. But Derek was great. Like if anyone's listening to this and contemplating a water cut, hire Derek Wilcox. He's the man. He walked me through everything. He was really responsive, really helpful, and not just the water portion, not just the sweating portion, but the food portion as well. So, yeah, what you did, it sounds insane.
Yeah, I mean,
What I did was kind of crazy, but that 2 days, 20 pounds in 2 days,
probably wasn't healthy, but I mean,
oh, not this is powerlifting, man. None of this is healthy.
that's fair enough. I guess kind of at what point would you say, like, if you're 10 over, do you think it's worth doing like the water cut? Like what's like the tipping point for deciding you should do a water cut versus just like not eating dinner that night?
Well, I would say an aggressive cut is 10% body weight. So I was sitting 218, 220. 10% of 218 was going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went for it. But if I was sitting 220, if I was even 222, I don't think I would have done it.
Yeah.
And that'll be that'll probably be the rule of thumb I go by. If I'm within 10%, if losing 10% gets me to weight, I'll do that. And that's 10% is an aggressive one though. Like that's not an easy one. I mean, listen to me, like I'm some expert. I've done this one time. But I did my research, and Derek was a tremendous resource. So I would say, in all the forums and all the articles online will tell you the same thing. 10% is probably as aggressive as you want to go. At least your first cut. I mean, I know, like I've heard stories about guys out of West Side whose like girlfriends and wives were like literally pulling them out of hot tubs. They were passed out, sweating. They made weight and then they go break world records. So like anything's possible, but I think a good, I don't know, I think 10% is a pretty clean round number that makes sense, and it did for me.
Yeah, because for me right now, I'm sitting at about like 250, and I think for me, the tipping point from going to 275 versus cutting down to 242 would be around the 260 mark. So
Yeah, I think that's about right.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that would be a fairly reasonable cut. Like I don't think you'd have to do a dry fast and just smash your face full of skull like I did. Although completely dehydrated,
oh,
not
the
having
buzz
in
is
10
crazy.
years,
Yep.
that was a buzz. I'm driving down to Connecticut. I'm like, whoa, all right.
Yeah, nicotine's a cutter's best friend. Like
Yeah,
it curbs your appetite, keeps you going, and yeah,
yeah, it worked.
it's kind of like after a football game, you throw in a lippers, and like you're dehydrated as hell, so you're buzzing like crazy on the ride
Oh
home.
yeah, absolutely, for sure.
So I guess more into what got you into multiply. I know you did your first meet raw. How long after that until you hopped into a multiply meet?
Um, it was all. I mean, well, again, it was a push pull. And I would say, well, I don't know, benching in a shirt depends on how you look at it. So I bet some would say benching in a shirt is harder than squatting in a suit, and some people would say the opposite. Um, I think squatting in a suit like it's just a tremendous amount of weight.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of weight and a lot can go wrong. It's over your head. If you suck at lifting and you throw a shirt on, you're not going to be benching 700 pounds. So I threw a shirt on and benched like 400 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't difficult. It wasn't dangerous. Um, uh, that was like 3 months later. And the idea, and I always wanted to get into multiply. From West Side versus the World, from the doc, like it was pretty clear. And Hoff, or somewhere in the doc says, I'm not here to have the biggest raw squat. Here to have the biggest squat.
Yeah.
So I'm like, sick. That's cool. Like I'm here for that. And I can deadlift pretty good raw. Actually, relatively speaking, like bench, my shirted bench sucks, and my raw bench is fine, I would say. And I've been asked, like, well, why even just compete raw? Like, how much more do you need out of a shirt to put the shirt on? Like 1 pound.
Yeah.
That's where 1 pound. Like if I can pull 1 more pound in briefs and straps, put on briefs and straps because it's more. If I can squat 1 more pound, I'll put on the suit. If I can bench 1 more pound. So I got right into it. And so I did the push pull. Then later that year I did deadlift only, and then I did the following year, so 2022, I think 3 full power meets, and a deadlift only, and then I was off and running then. I mean, this isn't it's not like I started 10 years ago. It's all pretty recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the progression, and I knew it was going to be multiply. I didn't know how to use any of it, and I wanted to do a meet just to see how it would go. And my mentality was, well, if I go out, the raw meet I did, I'm like, well, if this is my best ever meet, it means I quit the sport, so this doesn't matter. And if it's not my best meet ever, well, it also doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So just, that'd be my recommendation to anyone thinking about it. Just do it. Because your first meet won't be your best meet unless you quit. And if you quit, it never mattered to begin with.
Exactly. So. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I guess from my perspective, I definitely didn't think you just started competing in 2021. I mean, you look great in your squat suit. Like, you look experienced in your squat suit. I know you had the bench injury, so I didn't really have high expectations for the bench, but I mean, you still got it. You got it in the meet, so that's a big thing. And then your deadlift is pretty technically sound too.
Yeah, it's I have good leverages for the deadlifts. I feel like I'm pretty strong in there too. I feel like I have a pretty strong back, strong hamstrings, but I'm built to leverage it. I'm pretty good at leveraging the straps. But I've been an athlete my whole life, so have you. So just a different sport, and I appreciate you saying that. But yeah, no, pretty new to it. I've been lucky to be able to train alongside some really great squatters, and Anthony and Val Oliveira. They own the gym I train at. Actually, well, we split rent because I run my nonprofit out of there. I know we'll talk about that a little later.
Yep.
So that helps. That helps speed things up. If I was, without that, I wouldn't be. My squat isn't anything to write home about. It's getting better. But they were, basically everything I have from my squat is from them. And working with Mike Skiba now, like the things that I am off on, he's identified, and he's dialing it in even more and like taking it to that next level. So I've been really fortunate to train with and for some pretty established skilled lifters.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are starting to come under Mike's wing. I'm planning to have him on at some point, and I guess kind of what made you kind of choose him, or kind of what are some of the biggest things that you've like learned from him so far?
Yeah, so as far as like deciding to like jump on that train, John Rupo's lifts have exploded.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a monster now. He's always been good. But now he's like, okay, like, like people stop and watch him squat.
Yeah.
Like that's, and his pull's always been good. He's just bulldog strong when it comes to that, but his squat's getting way more technically sound, exploded. So, and John and I are pretty close. So talking to him about it, and I was looking for new programming anyway. I've been programming myself for the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 months, and that worked. I knew that I can do that in the short term, no problem, especially in meet prep. And I was preparing for WPO Super Finals, and I knew I could. Basically, it's just like hit the gas. Like I know how to do those last 8 to 12 weeks. Yeah. It's the other 40, 45 weeks a year that I'll become undisciplined. So I knew, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna ride this. Well, my shoulder, like, setback with my shoulder. I couldn't bench 135. So I messaged Wayne at WPO and was like, listen, my shoulder's fucked. I could throw on a size like 70 SDP and maybe bench the bar, but like that seems stupid. So he found a replacement. And then Hellbent was, I think, 4 or 5 weeks after that. So that was a very extended prep, I guess, if you want to call it that. and I was fine doing that myself. But I knew I couldn't. I know I couldn't do the rest myself. And I needed someone to look at my lifts. Like I wasn't gonna learn how to squat new
Yeah.
in a month leading up to Hellbent. So I'm like, we're just doing this. Um, but between Rupo, meeting Mike, and getting to know him a little bit, just an awesome dude. And his lifters are bananas. Like he has a bunch of guys squatting 1,000, and benching a ton, pulling a ton. So yeah, getting to know him, doing the Hellbent meet, John's numbers just blowing up. It was a pretty easy choice, and so far, as far as like what I've learned, just basically I've been squatting basically just by like pirouetting down. Like there's no break. Like I don't break back at all. I haven't been. And so it's funny how 100 people can tell you 100 different ways to how to incorporate a cue,
Yep.
whether it's arching or keeping your chest up or whatever, knees out, and then whatever is Ed Cohn, like, open up the taint or like whatever. He cued me a few different ways to break at the hips and sit back during the squat. That it just, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. So I mean, that's been big. He's paying real close attention to my bench, down to like, where the fold in the collar is going to be and all this stuff. So, and it's been great. Been great so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you use an STP, correct?
Yeah, yeah. That's all. I've tried different things. I'm in the STP now, and I like it. It's easy. I mean, I'm not that technically skilled yet. I'm figuring it out, and it's a pretty user friendly shirt. I tried Rudy make me an overkill. It probably fit perfectly. It probably was a perfect shirt, but I get in and I'm like, nah. I tried it like 3 times. I'm like, I can't. This is impossible. If I had one now, it'd be probably a different story. And I've tried a few single ply shirts that I liked. I really liked the Rage X, but the STP is just so user friendly. We'll see. I haven't benched with Mike in person yet. We'll see what he thinks. But yeah, the STP is where I'm at right now.
Yeah, so I notice a lot of people, I feel like everyone has an STP. Do you know, I guess, why it's more user friendly? Like, what are some of the things about it that makes it so popular?
It's forgiving. It stretches well. I mean, it doesn't. Let me rephrase that. Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, it stretches a little bit better. At no point does it feel like if this is the collar, in my overkill, it felt like this was going to saw right through me. It doesn't feel, the SCP doesn't feel that way. It just kind of, it will keep giving. The break-in period is almost non-existent. Like I got I've been in a double ply. I got a triple ply that I really like. I haven't trained much in the triple ply. I haven't had it on since, I don't know, probably I only put it on one time, but that one time I did put it on, I was able to get it down to a 1 board. On the first day I had it, I could have, if my shoulder was better, I would have been able to touch something for sure. It's just a really user friendly shirt. The downside is that they wear out quick. It doesn't seem, just anecdotally from what other people have said and in my own experience, I think you only have so many reps in that thing before it's no longer, it's not really a bench shirt anymore. It's just a weird shirt with a weird collar. Um, I think probably the other stuff, the overkill and the katana, like those probably have a longer shelf life. But as far as if you're just getting into the sport, someone's just getting into the sport, an SDP is the way to go because it's really user friendly. And people bench a ton with an SDP. And it's not like it's a fake shirt. I mean, people still are benching 6, 7, 8, 900 pounds in an SDP.
I mean, Bob used an SDP.
I think Hoff is still in an SDP. I think it's so, and he can bench 1,000 pounds in an SDP. So it's not like it's a good shirt, but it's just user friendly.
Yeah. So I guess we can start diving into Iron Helix a little bit.
Sure.
Just kind of give me a background on what that is and kind of maybe some of the goals you originally had and some of the goals for this year.
Yeah. So Iron Helix is a non-profit strength and fitness concept benefiting the New Hampshire recovery community. right now, New Hampshire, that's where we are. We have one location that we're working out of. And recovery, substance abuse recovery. New Hampshire and West Virginia seem to battle back and forth on where the epicenter of the opioid epidemic is. Per capita, us, New Hampshire and West Virginia have the most overdoses every year, and it's been that way for a long time. It's not good. It's not good. And opiates were never my thing. I've never tried one, which is good, because if I did, I'd be dead. I would have died of a fentanyl overdose a long time ago. I'm in recovery from alcohol. It was a real problem for me. It started I don't know, probably just out of law school, when I was around 25, and it just escalated 7-8 years. And when I describe my consumption, people almost don't believe me. The amount I was drinking, it was around the clock, 60 to 70 drinks a day. No, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. I went to rehab a couple times, withdrawal seizures. After my first rehab stint, I still wasn't done, but I couldn't fit enough whiskey or vodka in me. So I started drinking Listerine, like bottles and bottles of Listerine a day. And this wasn't a scenario where it's midnight and the liquor store's closed and I need something, so I go to Cumberland Farms to get Listerine. This is like noon on a Saturday, and the liquor store is next to the Rite Aid. I'm going into Rite Aid and spending 8 times as much money on Listerine as I would on vodka. So it was not good. And it was all, people. If someone knew the answer to what addiction is, it would have been solved.
Mm-hmm.
If it was genetic or biological, someone would have identified something, and there would be a pill or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's complicated, and there's layers to it. And for me, and I think for a lot of people, it's self-medication for an internal struggle that has nothing to do with my biology. It's not an allergy. In my opinion, it's not an allergy. It runs in families, but not because of your genes. It runs in families like being a Patriots fan runs in families.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone in the family is a Patriots fan. Yeah, because you all grew up in the same house.
Mm-hmm.
And your dad, and I'm not speaking. My dad's not an alcoholic, but like, for those people who they're an alcoholic and their dad was an alcoholic, the grandfather, blah blah blah. Well, yeah, you're alcoholics because you all grew up the same way, and you deal with struggle the same way, and you relate and connect, and build, and you're in the same community. So I think it runs that way. But anyway, I digress. When I got out of rehab the second time, it was 2017 and or 17 or 18, and I quit. I stopped practicing law. I've been a corporate attorney, primarily out of Boston, for 9 years prior to that. And it was a wilderness treatment program. So we were in the woods for 45 days, I was there at the program for 45 days, and we were in the woods backpacking, setting up camp, 70, 80-pound backpacks, because we have to carry all our food, all our tents, all the stuff, all the communal stuff. We were in the woods for 39 days. And I got out and, basically had an epiphany while I was there. And I was like, this lawyer thing is not it. This is not, maybe we'll be someday again. But, I got into the law for the wrong reasons. A lot of fabricated external expectations of people. In my mind, I'm like, well, I have to be a lawyer or a doctor because everyone expects so much of me. Really, that's just a warped narcissism. Assuming that all these people, if I don't do what they expect, they're going to be let down. No one really gives a shit what I'm doing. No one gives a shit what anybody's doing. My family loves me. My circle loves me, but I don't care if I'm an astronaut or a janitor, right?
Yeah.
But me, in my head, I'm like, no, all my friends, I have all these extra. No, I don't give a shit. It's just me thinking everyone else's world revolves around me, which is preposterous. So once those misgivings, misperceptions dissipated, I realized, like, community and, building community was really important. Being part of a sober community was really important for me while I was in rehab. And I decided to start working in recovery. So I worked at a sober house for a year and went out west to Montana to work at a wilderness treatment program for a season in the winter, and being out in the Montana December, January weather for 16 days, and, just camping, and it was cold and brutal, and it was pretty awesome though. So I did that, came back, worked at another program, and when COVID hit, there's a number of reasons why, but it just so happened to be when COVID hit, I started my own program. It initially was a hiking program, getting people into the woods, but I found that I couldn't connect with as many people as I wanted to, because these are long days. It's an hour of the mountain, and then you're hiking for 3 hours, and it's an hour home, and I'm not going to get 6, 7, 10, 15 people all at the same time to go do that.
Yeah.
So the audience wasn't large enough. So the universe wasn't large enough for me to really create the community I wanted. And hiking was a big passion of mine. But the other big passion of mine, which, like I said earlier, started when I was 18, was being in the gym.
Yeah.
I'd already got into powerlifting. And I had learned and seen like what sort of a community you can build through powerlifting specifically, but more generally strength training. I can't run the hooks on a mono for myself. I can't hand myself out that, like, if I want to max out my bench, I can't hand it out. I can't in a shirt.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could get the bare bar out to myself in a shirt.
Yeah.
You need a team, and you're all working towards the same goal, but it's a very individual sport. And there's a lot of parallels with recovery there. Like, it takes community, it takes a team, but it very much is an individualized sport, because you're the only one deciding whether you're going to have that drink or not. You're the only one to decide whether you're going to have that pill or, take that line or whatever. So that's when I started Iron Helix. That was about 2 years ago. And it's free strength training and gym time for the recovery community. And I have some sober houses that come in, some individual clients that come in, and we're trying to grow. It's going really well. I started with one guy 2 years ago, and about a month ago on a Saturdays and Tuesdays are my big days. And on a Saturday, I had 15 guys in there at once. I say guys, they were all guys. Some women do come in, but it's mostly guys who are doing this right now. It's like, the more the merrier.
Yeah.
But it's mostly guys, and it's going really well. Right now, like I said before, I share space with Anchor Athletics, and it's great. You're not gonna find a better gym. But because they're running their business and I'm running my business, there's there's not a conflict of interest, but basically my clients can't come in unless I'm there, which makes complete sense.
Yeah.
But the goal is to open up my own spot. It won't be, this isn't going to be LA Fitness or even Planet Fitness. It's going to be, less Equinox and more Rocky 4.
Oh, yeah.
Is my thinking. And that's the goal. We're raising money. It's a nonprofit, so every donation is fully tax deductible. And I'm working on some grant proposals right now. Try to get some government and federal and state contracts, and but to get there, I'm trying to raise just grassroots type stuff. You donated, I appreciate that, and a lot of my lifting buddies have donated, and doing different things to help. Skiba's selling me a pretty sick power rack bench combo at a discount. So that's pretty awesome. So stuff like that is going to help open up the new spot, and from there, the government contracts the proposals should be more attractive, and from there, just keep growing. This is New Hampshire. I'm focused on New Hampshire right now, and our spot right now is in Concord. I want that second smaller spot to also be in Concord, so we'd have 2 going in Concord, and then Manchester and like Portsmouth area, Seacoast, and then something up north. And for people not familiar with New Hampshire listening to this, sorry, but that's those are the spots I'm thinking, and eventually you expand beyond New Hampshire. Addiction isn't going anywhere, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think a big dent can be made, but I think it's gonna take more than one thing. It takes more than AA. It takes more than going to therapy. It takes more than it's a tapestry. There's not one silver bullet. Like I said, if there was, someone would have invented it, and someone would be a billionaire off of selling that pill or writing that book.
Yeah.
It takes a lot, and I'm trying to be part of that tapestry quilt, if you will.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome what you're doing. I guess maybe if you can like let people listening know like where they can donate if they're interested, if they want to reach out or anything like that.
Sure. Yeah. The website is ironhelixfitness.com. But the most direct way to donate is, well, there's a link there, but there's a link in my bio on Facebook and Instagram. I'm old, so I don't have like TikTok or whatever. I don't know. There might be a way to donate on TikTok. I'm not sure, but definitely on Instagram and Facebook. My handle on Instagram is iron__helix. But if you Google Connor Boyle Iron Helix, it's all there. And there's a link to donate to a GoFundMe. And all the proceeds go to expanding into a new spot. Like, I'm not paying myself with this money.
Yep.
Hopefully someday I can pay myself. I haven't paid myself yet. All the money is going to making more hours and more equipment and more locations available to a lot of guys and women that need it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I know for a lot of powerlifters, like powerlifting in the gym in general is kind of like their escape from reality or therapy. Like, for me, it's my own therapy. Like, I know regular therapy, there's benefits from that, but like it's kind of the idea of it's like a escape from reality. So I think what you're doing is great, and I think it's a great connection for someone to start building.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, like, escape from reality. I don't see it as escape from it. It is reality. Like, you're not going into a different dimension like that. Like, and I mean that as like in a good way. I don't mean, I'm not like challenging you there. It's more just like, no, that is reality. Like, that is like, you are in the moment. There's no, you know it. And most of the people listening to this are lifters. So they know it. Like, you're never more in the moment than when you have a PR on your shoulders.
Yep.
Or there's whatever the weight is for you, 100, 200, 700 pounds over your face. Like, there's nowhere else to be but in the moment. Like, that's life. Like, life is happening every second of your day. And if you can be in that moment, that's a good thing. I think a lot of addiction comes from anxiety and depression, like self-created anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
Like, because we get so in our heads, we get so worked up about what's going to happen in the future. And we have all these, again, like, fabricated realities about what other people might be saying or what other people might be thinking, and none of that's really real.
Yeah.
But being under the bar is real. So it's an escape from all the bullshit. It's not an escape from reality, in my opinion. And it's peaceful and it's simple and there's concrete progress. And it's an escape, but I think it's an escape that brings you into reality because you're in the moment. There's nowhere to go. And what I also like about powerlifting and how it parallels recovery and life really is you can have all the spotters and all the loaders and all the safety, all the safety precautions in place, but no one can help you complete that squat.
Yep.
I mean, they can pick up the bar and put it back in the hooks, but you are the only one who's going to make or miss that squat.
Yep.
And and ultimately that's what recovery is. Like, you can have all the resources at your disposal and you should use them. And those are great things. And Iron Helix is one of those, but ultimately it's on you. And you learn that lesson in the gym and it translates to recovery.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many parallels to draw from powerlifting to like the real world, so many lessons to be learned. And like one of my favorite things, I don't know who I've heard it from, but it's kind of like the weights don't give a fuck. Like, the weights aren't going to change because you're sad that day or you're being anxious. Like, the weight's the weight, deal with it.
It's absolutely right. And similarly, like you deadlifted 600 pounds, last month. Great. You didn't lift it this month yet.
Yeah.
And like, oh, you didn't go to the liquor store yesterday. Congratulations. You still got to not go today. And it's like you said, there's a lot of parallels, and it's pretty cool. So like, it's been a really easy, not easy. It's been a really, I don't know, complementary way to talk recovery and in an environment that isn't just AA.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I think to wrap things up here, we'll ask my question of if you could give a new powerlifter or someone going into their first meet a word of advice, what would it be?
Um, it's always the cliche: have fun, open light. And that's true, but it'd be echoing what we kind of talked about earlier. If this is the best meet you ever do, then you quit. If it's not the best meet you ever did, then don't worry about it. So just get out there and swing.
Yep.
Honestly, like, so you don't want to bomb out. Yeah, you don't want to bomb out, but like, that won't be the end of the world, because if you love it, you'll keep doing it. And fall in love with the process, not the result. That goes for all things in life, right? Like, if you enjoy the process, if you love the process, the results take care of themselves. If you don't love the process, you're going to quit, or get burned out. If you get burned out, you become addicted, and then you just go to Iron Helix. So I guess do whatever you want to do. I'll get another client. Joking, but
yeah,
ultimately, like, get in there and take a swing. It's a long-winded way of saying, I guess the one piece of advice would be, you are ready for the meet.
Yep.
You're ready for the meet right now. You're ready for your first meet right now.
Awesome.
Do it. Just get on the platform.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to come on, sharing who you are and about Iron Helix. Hopefully, I wish you the best with the growth this year, both as a powerlifter and with your nonprofit. Thanks for
having me, man. This has been great. I really appreciate it. We'll chat after this. I'll see you soon, and we'll lift soon. We'll lift together soon.
For sure.